It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning broadcast covering fishing, hunting, and outdoor recreation throughout the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, producing a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter, and by Loophole, America's optical authority. Also sponsoring the show every week is Shiloh Inn & Suites, offering affordable excellence throughout the West. Mardon Resort, the place to fish and hunt in eastern Washington, and the Wallowa County Chamber of Commerce, where nature is on display in Northeast Oregon all year long. And now, let's head into the field with your host, John Cruz.
Can you believe that Thanksgiving is coming up later this week? I know, the year has flown, hasn't it? But even though the holidays are impending, I hope you'll take some time to be thankful for certain things in your life: family, health, friends, just a few of the things you can think of at this time of year. And I hope you're also getting outdoors, because believe it or not, November's a great time to be outside, particularly if you are a hunter or an angler or a wildlife watcher, because there's a lot going on out there when it comes to all three pursuits. We've got another great show for you this week, and with the blustery weather in mind, we've got another good winter read for you this week as well. Kristen Berube is the author of the book Confessions of a Camel Queen. It's a fun read, and we get to have a really fun conversation with Kristen, who hails from Missoula, Montana, about this kind of prim and proper woman learns to coexist with Neanderthal hunter. It is fun, and I think you're going to enjoy it. In other topics, lakes are going to be icing up soon, and Lance Mers is going to tell you about a great little lure you'll want to use when going ice fishing this winter during an extended Max Minute. And then we're heading to Idaho. Roger Phillips with the Fish and Game Department there is going to share a kokanee fishery success story taking place at a big northern Idaho lake. And then he's going to come back later in the show to share some advice on how to catch those kokanee. We've got a lot of outdoor news for you this week, to include a story about the catch of a lifetime for two Columbia River fishermen, wolves losing their endangered species status listing in another Northwest state, and rumors of a possible merger between two giant sporting goods retailers, Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. That's big news. We'll see if it comes true. We've got some upcoming events for you, too. One of them is the Chili Cook-Off for you Friday and Saturday listeners. It's taking place at the East Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store on Saturday afternoon from noon to 4 p.m. I'm going to be one of the judges, going to be sampling some great chili and also some of the deep-fried turkey they're going to be cooking there. Pretty sure they're going to have plenty for you, too, if you show up, along with all sorts of games and some prizes and some pretty good deals at the store, too. Speaking of Sportsman's Warehouse, we also have our trivia question of the week towards the end of the show. That's your chance to guess a trivia question. If you guess right, you're entered for a chance to win a $25 gift card that we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. But before we go any further into this show, David Sparks has got another edition of Sportsman Spotlight for you, courtesy of the Northwest Ag Information Network. This week, David shares scientific evidence showing Yellowstone grizzly bear numbers are on the rise.
Good news for all outdoorsmen. A genetic study confirms the growth of the Yellowstone grizzly bear population. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Genetic data show the grizzly bear population in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem has grown since the 1980s, with no loss in genetic diversity, according to a report by the Interagency Grizzly Bear Study Team. Results indicate that the effective population size of Yellowstone grizzly bears, or the number of individuals that contribute offspring to the next generation, has increased fourfold over a 25-year period. This provides evidence that Yellowstone grizzly bears are approaching the effective size necessary for long-term genetic viability. Here's Pauline Kamath, USGS ecologist and lead author of the study.
In this study, we were looking at the effective population size, and so that reflects the number of individuals that will be contributing their genes to the next generation. And so we've found a fourfold increase in the effective population size from about 1982 to 2007. And why this is significant is because it quantifies that potential for loss of genetic diversity into the future. So it's sort of a reflection of the evolution or adaptive potential for the population.
The study demonstrates how genetic monitoring can complement traditional demographic-based monitoring, providing valuable tools for wildlife managers.
Drew Killian, Senior Vice President of Insurance Services at Northwest Farm Credit.
We invest a lot of time and a lot of training in making sure that our staff and their respective responsibilities and stewardships can be of the most benefit for farmers. We make sure that our crop insurance agents are educated in the particular regions and parts of agriculture that are dominant in a specific region that they're working in.
Northwest Farm Credit Services, here to help you grow. Equal opportunity provider.
Oregon Cattlemen's Association 2015 convention is right around the corner. December 3rd through 5th at the River House in beautiful Bend, Oregon, and the only thing missing is you. The program includes all your favorite events like Cattlemen's College, trade show, a host of national industry speakers and presentations, dancing, the annual tailgate party, and a special concert to wrap it all up by Joni Harms. So don't wait. Early registration closes November 25th. Register today. Go to orcattle.com. That's orcattle.com.
Leupold has been building optics in Oregon since 1907, and Leupold binoculars bring excellent optical performance and modern styling to the serious outdoorsman. Whether you're a boater, birder, backpacker, or hunter, Leupold's state-of-the-art binocular lines are sure to fit your needs. Visit Leupold.com or your local Cabela's, Bi-Mart, or Sportsman's Warehouse to see the full line of Leupold optics.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Last week, we told you about a good winter read, and we've got another fun read to tell you about this week. It's called Confessions of a Camo Queen. The author is Kristen Berube. She hails from Missoula, Montana, home of our affiliate, AM 930 KMPT, which broadcasts our show every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Kristen, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on board.
Thanks for having me.
Kristen, this is your very first book. I really have enjoyed reading it so far. Why don't you give our listeners the brief elevator speech? Exactly what is Confessions of a Camo Queen all about?
Well, it's basically about living with an outdoorsman as far as fishing, hunting, that whole gamut, and just how crazy they really are as far as the things about covering yourself in deer urine and putting maggots in your lip and, duck quacking down the road if you see a duck in a field and all that good stuff.
Well said. And I guess you could look at it as, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, transported to the outdoors world. Reading the first few chapters, I'm really struck by the tone. Prim and proper woman learns to coexist with Neanderthal outdoorsman is what I would say. Let's start off with the prim and proper woman that you obviously are. Tell me a little bit and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm prim and proper, but I am from Montana, so I have been exposed to, hunting and fishing, obviously, and I love fishing, but once I got married to an outdoorsman, I really realized that fishing is not just fishing and hunting is not just hunting. It's an obsession, and there's more to it than I could have ever dreamed. And just learning about that has been a real eye-opener. And it's not just, a hobby. It's more like that is your life and work is your hobby. And so I've kind of learned that the hard way, I think. But as far as me, I just like to go fishing. I like to go hunting, the hiking part, but I don't get invited unless all of the other hunting partners are busy.
I see.
I talk too much and I walk too loud and, I probably smell too good.
Nice. That's okay. I bet you're going to work your way up the ladder, especially with this book and as you keep learning. And we got to talk about your husband because I already like this guy. I haven't met him. I mean, he's basically, for lack of a better word, kind of a Neanderthal outdoorsman. He's driving down the road, blowing on a duck call or an elk bugle, just passionate about the outdoors. What kind of things does he like to, just start at the beginning. Who is he? What does he do? And what does he love?
Well, he loves everything outdoors. He is obviously a crazy hunter and a fisherman, and he knows every detail about everything about it you could ever even imagine, things that I couldn't even imagine. And if he happens to be sitting still for 5 seconds, which he never is, he'll be watching the Hunting Channel or reading a hunting magazine. So, and he's actually gotten our 4-year-old son and our 2-year-old daughter hopelessly addicted He took my son duck hunting last weekend, and my son cried for 2 hours when he got home because he just wanted to go back.
Wow. All right, that's getting him hooked early. Way to go.
Oh, my gosh.
What's your husband's name?
Ramy.
Ramy?
Yep, like do, re, mi, fa, so.
Nice. Well, obviously he enjoys duck hunting. He enjoys trout fishing. He enjoys elk hunting, deer hunting. I get all that. And he enjoys scouting for them and just driving around and being outdoors, too. Sounds like a great guy. And it sounds like you guys have a dog, too, from what I caught in one of the stories.
We actually have 6 dogs.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, but his pride and joy is his hunting dog, Skeeter, and they are kind of disturbingly close. And, he gets the front seat of the truck. And
Whoa, hold on. Skeeter, is Skeeter a lab?
He is,
of course. So Skeeter the lab gets the front seat. Wife is in the back seat?
It's actually more, my choice just because the front seat is so gross from all the dog fur. I'm like, it's fine. Skeeter can just have the front. I'll sit in the back.
Wow.
Otherwise, you end up covered in fur, and, that way they can look at each other adoringly the whole ride. And
oh, my gosh. Okay, now I am getting a little bit disturbed. Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Kristen Berube. She is the author of a new book called Confessions of a Camo Queen. Kristen, I want to talk about something else here, and that's the fact that obviously you, as I'm reading the book and going along, we're getting from horror and revulsion to actually you start figuring out how to play the game and enjoy some of this. And there's a great story about a rafting trip that you took with your husband where you thought you were going to go on a rafting trip and, enjoy the scenery and maybe drink a few drinks. And in reality, he was just pressing you in as the oarsman so he could go ahead and fish.
Right.
And I have this visual. I'm going to guess the river. Was it the Bitterroot?
It usually is the Bitterroot or the Blackfoot, yep.
Right. And just the way the description rolled, I had a feeling, I bet she's right about the Bitterroot River there. So, but you kind of got the best of. Number one, you learned how to steer the raft and do it without breaking your back. And number two, you kind of got back at him. You actually went and learned how to fly fish yourself, didn't you?
I did.
Tell me about that.
Originally he wanted to teach me how to fly fish because he thought that would be great to have a co-fisher with him, but then he discovered that my rowing was much better than me out fishing him, so I kind of had to learn from other people too, and it's always easier to learn from someone else who's not your significant other.
Having tried to teach my wife how to shoot, I can tell you that is absolutely true. It doesn't work that well. So you actually found a fly fishing class for women, didn't you?
Yes.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about that. That's a great idea.
It was just fun, it basically taught me exactly what he told me, but I just didn't argue with that teacher like you argue with your husband.
Right, right.
And they don't get frustrated with you at a class either, where he gets frustrated if you miss every single fish in the world, So
how long have you two been together now?
Since 2001.
Okay, so it's been 14 years, and you had a lot of time to learn all this. And over time, what are some of the things you've become passionate about that maybe you weren't so passionate about when you first met?
I'd say the number one thing is that I actually enjoy eating venison now. Yeah, I had it before growing up randomly, and, I always was this kind of like thinking about Bambi the movie and, typical little kid girl stuff. And I wasn't really into it. And now I love it. And actually, I don't even enjoy beef now. It just tastes weird to me.
Wow.
Yeah. I also eat it, but it just doesn't taste the same to me. And so I think that's probably my number one thing is just enjoying the venison.
And what is your favorite outdoors activity?
We've gone to Alaska fishing a couple times, which I thought was like the best thing in the world. But I'd say fishing, just float in the river and in the sun. I don't like going when it's cold. I'm a fair-weathered fisherman. I don't like the cold. So if it's sunny out, I'm in.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right. Well, believe it or not, we're already starting to run a little bit low on time, but I want people to know where they can find a copy of this book. It's Confessions of a Camo Queen, Living with an Outdoorsman. The author, again, Kristen Berube. Where can people get this book?
It's at a lot of the local bookstores here in Missoula and throughout the state, and Bob Ward's, Hastings, Barnes & Noble, and also at Amazon.com.
All right. So lots of places to choose from in Montana. And if it's in Hastings and if it's in Barnes & Noble, good chance it's going to be throughout the Northwest. And, of course, Amazon.com is all over the world. Again, the title of the book, Confessions of a Camo Queen. It's really a fun read, especially if you want to see the differences between, like I said, a prim and proper woman and a Neanderthal outdoorsman. Kristen, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
Hi, this is Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Many of our Shiloh customers have been visiting our Shiloh locations for years, and here's an example of someone who wouldn't stay anywhere else.
Sometimes I go visit family, but most of the time I travel back and forth for business. And the best part is that I always travel with my dog Lucky, and he's welcome at any of the Shiloh Inns. I love their beds, beautiful rooms, really clean. The staff go out of their way to make me feel comfortable. Business area when I need it. Man, I'm telling you, at the end of the day, do I ever enjoy that pool and the spa. Plus, free breakfast. I love Shiloh Inns. It's everything I need.
We invite all of you to try Shiloh Inns the next time you're traveling for business or pleasure. Call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family-owned and proud of it.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on.
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers. Lance, November is here. It's starting to cool off, and it's not going to be long till lakes, especially east of the Cascades and in the Rocky Mountain states like Idaho and Montana, are freezing over, and people are going to start thinking ice fishing. When that happens, does Max, by chance, have some sort of product that might be useful for ice fishing anglers?
Well, I'm hoping we get some ice this year, John.
Well, that's true.
But yes, I'm excited to do this. Max has a glow hook out, and it's absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's handcrafted. It's hard plastic. It's not weighted down. All you got to do is charge this with your light, and it's going to stay aglow for about 20 to 30 minutes. And if you're not catching a fish by then, you need to reel up and figure out what's going on.
The glow hooks is basically, in a sense, it's just like a big egg hook, but it's got a little plastic body on it. And I understand that you can basically shine a flashlight on it, and it's going to give off light, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, most insect larvae, they have a glow-like appearance when they're down in the water anyway. But, you know, this isn't just for ice fishing. I use this for kokanee fishing all the time.
Okay.
So you can troll this. You can ice jig with this. I mean, you can do all sorts of things with this.
So you can use it by itself in an ice fishing situation, or, like you said, attach it to some other lure, or like maybe a smile blade or whatever you're going to troll, and it's going to work as basically an accessory or an attachment to a lure too.
Absolutely. And we have different series of these glow hooks as well. We've got bronze, red, sparkle tail fly, and treble series, and they come in sizes anywhere between size 2 to size 12.
Well, there you go, folks. Something else for your arsenal, especially if you're going to go ice fishing this winter. It's the glow hook from Max Lure Company. Check it out, give it a try, and if Lance is right, you're going to be pretty darn happy with the results.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of its Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Hey, we're talking to Lance Mers today with Max Lure Company about a brand new lure that's just slaying the trout out there on area lakes. It's the Smile Blade Spin Drift Trout Lure from Max Lure Company. Lance, what makes this lure so special?
Well, we've got our Max Lure patented Smile Blade, our high UV components, and the Spin Drift hook, which gives it a great corkscrew action in the water.
There you go, folks. All three components help you catch more fish. The Smile Blade Spin Drift Trout Lure, only from Max Lure Company.
Need a lightweight camp stove for your next adventure? The new Striker Series stove from Camp Chef is the perfect solution. 2 models of this single-burner stove let you cook using propane or isobutane. The heat ring technology built into the stove's cookware lets you boil water in less than 2 minutes. And like everything else in the Camp Chef line, the Striker Series stove is built tough. If you hike, paddle, hunt, or fish and cook while you do it, you're going to love the Striker Series stove. Find it at your local sporting goods store or at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
You can fish from a boat, or you can stand on shore, or you can use a pontoon with carpet on the floor.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We have got a great story for you if you are an angler or just somebody who wants to hear about conservation. It's about a place to go kokanee fishing in Idaho, perhaps the best fishery you're going to find in the state of Idaho right now. With us here to tell us more about it is Roger Phillips. He's a public information officer for Idaho Fish and Game. Roger, what lake should people know about when it comes to kokanee fishing in the great state of Idaho?
Well, Lake Pend Oreille is definitely, one of our crown jewels as far as those kokanee fisheries go, and it's one of what I consider one of the kind of the Great Lakes of Idaho. The 3 big ones up there: Lake Pend Oreille, which is the biggest in the state; Lake Coeur d'Alene, which is slightly downhill from it; and Priest Lake, which is also nearby. All 3 big, beautiful North Idaho lakes.
So let's go ahead and orient some of our listeners who aren't familiar with this section of the Idaho Panhandle to exactly where Lake Pend Oreille is. If we'll start with the town of Coeur d'Alene, where do we go from there?
You go up north from there, and there's a beautiful town called Sandpoint, which is a well-known kind of a resort town. And, from the lake, you can see Schweitzer Resort, which if people are skiers out there, I'm sure that will ring a bell in their heads. And
oh, yes.
Just a really, really neat area.
All right, so we know where it's at, and it's a huge lake. I understand it's 104 miles. Is that correct?
134 square miles.
Oh, my gosh.
Which was mind-boggling to me, and I think it's about, I believe it's about 43. If you were to draw a straight line from top to bottom, it's about 43 miles long.
Okay, so 43 miles long, 134 square miles, and it's really, really a deep lake, too. I understand the Navy's actually tested submarines in this lake. It's so deep.
Correct. It's over 1,000 feet deep, and they're still testing submarines there. They build it. I was just reading something on it today. They build scale models of their submarines that they have in the works, and they go out and test it there because it's very deep and it's perfect acoustics for listening for them.
Wow. So we've got this huge lake in northern Idaho, and we've got kokanee there. What other fish do we have there as well?
Boy, there is a grocery list of them, but the big ones, it's got a phenomenal rainbow trout fishery. These things grow to over 20 pounds, and people take them trolling. Lake trout, which we'll talk a little bit more here shortly, are also in there and in large numbers, or not as much as they used to be, but like I say, we'll talk about that later. But, kokanee is kind of one of its big calling cards in those trophy trout. But boy, it's got a big long list of other fish ranging from, from bass to there's a few walleye in there and some other things too. Really, really interesting for a big, large lake, the diversity of fish it has.
All right. Well, let's focus on the kokanee for this conversation at any rate. When were they introduced there and how well did they do in the early years, so to speak?
Well, they were actually, from what my understanding is, they showed up in the 30s, and it was believed there was a huge flood on Flathead Lake in Montana, and those fish actually washed downstream into the lake. And as happens often when a new fish comes into a large body of water like that, they do very, very well. And it was an extremely popular fishery in those early decades, and actually supported both a sport fishery and a commercial fishery during the Great Depression.
Well,
so that's kind of rare for Idaho.
Oh, it is. But I'll tell you what, kokanee are some of the tastiest fish out there. So very good reason for a commercial fishery if you can catch them in those numbers. But I understand that this fishery, around 2000 or so, really fell on hard times. What happened?
Well, it did, and what happened was a really interesting part of this story because nobody was quite sure. There was a bunch of moving parts there, and through a lot of research through Fish and Game, they kind of realized that there'd been a real growth in the lake trout population and a consequent decline in the kokanee population. And the problem there was, one of the main problems was the kokanee was kind of driving a lot of those larger trout, those big rainbows, those bull trout, and the lake trout fed on those kokanee. So simple biology says you lose your prey species, you're going to lose your predator species as well.
Right. You know, it's funny. Depending on where you go, lake trout is either a four-letter word or it's Mackinac is a great word. So obviously lake trout, they became a four-letter word fish here in Lake Pend Oreille, at least as far as kokanee aficionados were concerned. What did Idaho Fish and Game do to address this?
Well, it was a huge challenge, and this is where it got really interesting, because when you lose those kokanee, but at the same time you have this huge population of giant trout, it's a pretty tough sell to go in and go, hey, we're going to need to take that that population of trophy trout way down to bring these other ones back up, and that's kind of what they had to do. And they brought somebody in from the Great Lakes who had a lot of experience, a PhD, a doctor of biology out there, who knew how to go into these big lakes and control those populations. And what it ended up being, to make a long story short, is a bounty on those lake trout and also some very deep water netting by commercial type fisheries. They weren't selling these fish, but they were netting them. And that's what, over a course of several years, knocked back that lake trout population.
Very interesting stuff. And again, not without controversy either was this undertaken. I understand that. You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Roger Phillips about kokanee and how they have, thrived and then declined, and as we're about to hear, thrived again in Lake Pend Oreille in northern Idaho. So you took these steps, and by the way, this seems very similar to the strategy that the tribes are employing along with Montana Fish and Game over in Flathead Lake right now.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that, but yeah, it's it's that trade-off thing, and it's very difficult. And, certainly we sympathize with people. When you go in and you say, you've got this lake full of, 10, 20-pound trout, and we're going to get rid of them and replace them with a bunch of 8 to 14-inch trout, that's kind of a tough sell, especially folks who really like catching those big fish and who doesn't like catching big fish. But, at the same time, you got to look at the bigger picture and the longer term, and everybody knew that we were kind of edging toward the cliff, and in some years they'd actually kind of gone over the cliff those kokanee had. The population had just crashed, and so there were some tough decisions to be made, and fortunately most anglers got on board with it through a bounty program, and also, for lack of a better word, tolerated the fact that they were sinking these big nets in there and pulling out, these big lake trout literally by the tons.
Right. Understood. So how did these mitigation efforts work? Where are we at today?
They've so far worked well. We're seeing those kokanee come back, and also encouraging the large rainbows and the bull trout too are doing well. Meanwhile, the lake trout seem to be staying in a low enough population that they're not affecting the kokanee population. So we definitely had some trade-offs, but very positive in the fact that got those kokanee back to good fishable numbers. The limit is currently 15 fish per day, which people really like. People are catching rainbows in that 20-pound range. Obviously not every day and on every trip, but boy, when they're out there, that makes those long days, a little more exciting, knowing that you could have a 20-pound rainbow on the end of your line at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I know it's probably not fair to ask about kokanee size because I know it's very cyclical, but right now, if I were to go out there to Lake Pend Oreille, what would be the average? Well, give me the range of size I'm going to look at when it comes to catching kokanee out there.
Well, when I was out there in September, the gentleman I was with, Bill Hawkins, longtime resident up there, great kokanee angler, we were catching lots of them in that 10 to 12-inch range, and that's toward the end of the season. So, as you know, they are cyclical, and that kind of, winds down the good kokanee fishing into the fall. And as we get into winter, because we know those things go up and spawn, which, by the way, they showed up in Granite Creek, which is the main trap up there, about 100,000 fish strong. So really great to see that. And, and amazing to see that when you see that many fish up into a small stream for spawning. But, my best guess is, and that's all it is, you're going to continue to see those fish in that real nice catchable size in the 10, 12, and then some in the low teens.
Well, there you go, folks. A great success story for kokanee salmon in the great state of Idaho, brought to you by Roger Phillips from Idaho Fish and Game. Lake Pend Oreille is the place to go. Go ahead and check it out yourself this coming spring or summer. Bring the boat and have a great time catching kokanee and rainbow trout and enjoying the beauty that you're going to find up there in northern Idaho. Roger, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
Clear Lake, Bass Lake, Otter Lake, Goose Lake, Gull Lake, Round Lake, Bear Lake, Rice Lake, Sugar Lake, Mud Lake, Long Lake, Ant Lake, Swan Lake, and Lake of the Woods. Oh, I fish everywhere.
If you've ever been fishing in Mexico, you know how good it can be, and now you can fish there with the Real News. Take your choice of a trip to Baja's East Cape for roosterfish, marlin, and dorado. These trips are value priced, so you can stretch your dollars in fun. To find out more about fishing Mexico with the Real News, log on to therealnews.com or call 425-334-8966. Again, that's therealnews.com or 425-334-8966 for an incredible adventure.
With an Evinrude motor and Minn Kota troller and Lowrance fish finder or two, we push off the dock just before 5 o'clock and go sailing off into the blue.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. Here's the latest. We are in the middle of November, and anglers continue to catch walleye limits on spinners and crawlers, Rapala shad wraps, and Berkeley flicker shads. Blade baits are also producing walleye over 10 pounds in size. Wow. Get on out there, folks, and enjoy the amazing walleye fishing. Don't forget your bass tackle, too, because that fishery continues to do well. In fact, some experienced bass anglers are reporting 30 fish catch and release days. The Lynn Cooley arm of the reservoir has been good for walleye, bass, crappie, bluegill, and even channel catfish. It's also a good area to fish on a windy day because it's protected. So, head on out there to Mardon Resort. Don't forget your shotgun, too, because there's hunting available, too, for ducks, for geese, for pheasant, for quail. It's all right there at Mardon Resort. Find out more at mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. Our leading outdoor news story today is the question of whether or not Bass Pro Shops is going to buy Cabela's. Several media outlets are reporting Bass Pro, with 94 retail stores across the country, is trying to do just that. Cabela's, with 77 retail stores, has been aggressively expanding its retail store footprint in recent years, but stock prices have been falling off as of late until this buyout rumor surfaced, which drove Cabela's stock prices up again. Neither chain is confirming anything, but it is telling that neither one is denying it either. Meanwhile, some Cabela's store employees are getting nervous. KULR News in Billings, Montana, citing anonymous store employees, reported the formal takeover will take place on January 1st, and employees at this store will be out of a job. Meanwhile, rumors continue to swirl about the fate of Cabela's, their stores, and their employees. We'll let you know more as we find out. In another big story, the Oregon Fish and Wildlife Commission voted to delist wolves from the State Endangered Species Act throughout Oregon this month. About 106 people came to testify over the course of a day-long meeting who represented pro- and anti-wolf points of view. The decision removes wolves from the State Endangered Species Act, but has no other effect on wolf management at this time. In other words, it's not like they're opening up a wolf hunting season anytime soon. In fact, there's a 3-phase management plan, and wolves in Oregon will continue to be managed with ESA-like protections until they reach the conservation objective of 4 breeding pairs for 3 consecutive years. Additionally, west of Highway 395, 78, and 95, wolves are still listed under the Federal Endangered Species Act, and the Commission's action has no effect on their federal status. What is happening, though, in eastern Oregon is that wolves that have established a firm footprint are now being moved to Phase 2 of management, and they'll be moved to Phase 3 after the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife documents 7 breeding pairs for 3 consecutive years, which could occur as early as January of 2017. When this happens, controlled take of wolves in situations of chronic depredation or wolf-related declines of prey populations like deer and elk is allowed with commission approval. The vote was not unanimous. It was 4-2, but that is how it stands right now. Finally, from the Wenatchee world, we got the story about 2 anglers who netted the catch of a lifetime. It happened near Bridgeport on the upper Columbia River in north central Washington. A woman jumped from the Highway 17 bridge over the Columbia River and fortunately was rescued by 2 fishermen. The 34-year-old Bridgeport woman fell about 85 feet into the water, according to Douglas County Sheriff Harvey Jesdahl in a press release. The fishermen, who had just launched their boat, were able to get her into their boat and take her to the Marina Park boat launch, where she was treated by EMS personnel. Way to go, guys. That is truly truly a great catch, and one you'll be talking about for years to come. Next on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're talking to Roger Phillips again from Idaho Fish and Game. As you may recall, he was talking to us about the kokanee success story taking place at Lake Pend Oreille in northern Idaho. Roger, we didn't have time to talk about how you actually go about catching kokanee on Lake Pend Oreille and some of those other wonderful North Idaho lakes, but I want to do so now. Let's talk about the drill, so to speak. When it comes to spring and summer fishing for kokanee, how does one catch kokanee in Idaho?
Well, mainly it's a troller show, and, these things live in the larger lakes and reservoirs, and, fairly specialized tactics for them, but at the same time, decent electronics. It's no secret on what a kokanee trolling rig looks like. Find that information and, go find those schools of them. And once you find them, you're in the middle of them.
So a lot of folks I know like to fish downriggers, but leaded line will work as well. Or even, I've seen people use keel weights to get down there when they're higher up in the water column. A lot of people use a Dodger or maybe a flasher sort of troll. Like there's a flashlight troll from Max Lure Company. I know one popular offering is the Kokanee Pro Spinner from Max Lure Company. Other spinners or lures that you like to use, or maybe the last time you were out, if you don't mind sharing your secrets?
Well, the gentleman that I was with had a pretty traditional trolling rig on with, multiple spinner blades and kind of those willow leaf patterns, things like that, a little hint of color on them. Everybody has their favorite. And then the rubber snubbers, and then trolled that with a wedding ring and the shoe peg corn. And I think that's almost a standard recipe for those things and a great place to start.
It is. And, I'm going to ask, I don't know, but what the heck is it about shoe peg corn and kokanee? Do you have any idea what the relationship is there?
I sure wish I did. That one's been a mystery to me for a long time. It's kind of like using shrimp to catch steelhead in Idaho. It's like, don't these fish realize they're not in the ocean anymore? And I've yet to see a kokanee in a cornfield, so I know I've never figured out the correlation between those two, but I'm not going to argue with things that work.
One other thing I got to ask you, when you catch your kokanee, how do you like to prepare them for a meal?
Well, fresh out of the water, I'm very old school. Put them in a cast iron and skillet and grill or fry those things. But with a fish like kokanee, you really can't go wrong. Take your favorite recipe and cook it up, and they're going to be tasty however you decide to do it.
Oh, I agree. And folks, for what it's worth on my end, I like to put them on the grill, cover them with foil, a little bit of lemon, some lemon pepper. Oh, delicious, delicious fish. You are going to love kokanee if you haven't had it before. And if you have had it before, you know what Roger and I are talking about already. Is there a website that Idaho Fish and Game has that people can find out more about fishing for kokanee in Idaho, maybe techniques and places to go?
Absolutely. It's fishandgame.idaho.gov, and we've got, obviously a lot devoted to fishing. And the story of the kokanee rebound is on our website right now if they want to read the whole thing, and look forward to folks getting out there and trying it.
Great stuff. Roger, thanks again for the information and sharing it with our listeners on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
You're welcome, John.
Shucking big bad making figure eights with musky spinners and lures. Oh, honey, I love you, and that's not a lie. Musky guides all tell the truth. This must be the reason why I miss fishing more than I miss you.
Tired of the same old fishing hole? Then head to Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Enjoy a weekend on the glacial waters of Wallowa Lake, where you can troll for the deep water excitement of kokanee or cast your line for some trout fishing fun. Bring your float tube or canoe and enjoy fishing in some of Wallowa County's small lakes. Or don your waders and step into the clear waters of the Wallowa, Imnaha, or Grand Ronde rivers. Early to bed, early to rise, fish all day, and there'll be no need for lies when you fish the waters of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Visit us online at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
The off-season is a great season to visit Mardon Resort. Located in eastern Washington's Columbia Basin, you'll find incredible bird hunting, great wildlife watching opportunities, and fantastic fishing in a boat or right off the marina docks at Mardon Resort. Better still, off-season deals save you money when you bring your RV or stay in the hotel or wonderful park cottages. To find out more, log on to mardonresort.com. Mardon Resort, where the outdoor fun lasts all year long.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a nationwide group working to keep public lands in public hands. We've helped ban the use of drones for hunting. We help repair wildlife corridors in key riparian areas. We speak up against illegal ATV use. We collaborate with elected leaders to keep public lands in public hands. We're Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, with membership in all 50 states and Canada. Please join this dynamic conservation group. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
I've got an upcoming event to tell you about, especially if you are a Friday or Saturday morning listener in Central Washington. There's going to be a chili cook-off at the East Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store on Saturday the 21st. It's taking place from noon to 4 p.m. It's going to be conservation versus, well, you might say the professionals. You've got chili that's going to be cooked by people from Ducks Unlimited and from the Wenatchee Sportsman's Association, and they're going to be going up against chili cooked by Olive Garden, by Tacos Shava, and by Food Pavilion. I get to be one of the judges. I'm going to be sampling this chili. I'm pretty sure you'll get to sample some of this chili too. Not only that, they're going to have deep fried turkey there. They're going to have a turkey fryer set up, something you can buy right at the store, and they're going to fry up, I think, 2, 3, maybe more turkeys, and we get to be the beneficiaries of what gets cooked up. In addition to all of this, there's going to be some games. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff on sale. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, it's the East Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store. It's the chili cook-off taking place Saturday the 21st from noon to 4 p.m. The other big event taking place at Sportsman's Warehouse stores throughout the West and online are the incredible sales going on right now where you can get up to 60% off select items. That's right, below wholesale. There's clothing, there's boots, there's hunting and fishing gear. Incredible deals. Go online to find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com. And now, it's time for your trivia question of the week. This popular state park on the Oregon coast includes an old military fort you can explore and a shipwreck too you can walk around at low tide. What is the name of this big state park that's a family favorite for many in northern Oregon? Give us your answer through our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Be sure to like our page as well, or you can go ahead and contact us through our website at the Contact Us page. That's at northwesternoutdoors.com. Either way, if you guess correctly, you're entered for a chance to win the $25 gift card we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. While you're on the web, be sure to check out RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's the home of WRVO Radio. We air there every Wednesday, 4 times every Wednesday, as a matter of fact. We are part of the 24/7 Outdoors Radio lineup that's provided by this great internet radio channel. Again, it's RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It is the home of WRVO Radio, bringing you outdoors radio programming from all over North America every day. We are running out of time, and Thanksgiving is coming up Thursday. As I said at the beginning of the show, I hope you have some things to be thankful for. Hopefully, you're in good health. Hopefully, you can spend some time with family and friends over this holiday, and just let them know how much you care. Also, don't forget, this is a great time to be out in the field. November, traditionally, is a wonderful time to harvest not just turkey, but all sorts of other birds and game. And fish as well. And even if you're not into consumptive harvest, get out there and see all the wildlife that's on the move at this time of year. So until next time, take care, God bless, happy Thanksgiving, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.
That's the sound you hear when a fish hits the new Sonic bait fish from Max Lure Company. This metal lure can be cast, trolled, or jigged and will catch just about anything that swims in the sea, the river, or the lake. The Sonic bait fish has a unique vibration and flutter that can be rigged in 7 different ways. With all sorts of eye-catching colors and weights available, you'll be reaching for the Sonic bait fish as your go-to lure. It's the Sonic bait fish. And that's another fish on. Only from Max Lure Company.
Sonic booms not included with the Sonic Baitfish Strike unless you are fishing for jet fighters.